The night was quiet. Only the sound of crickets filled the air. The human farmer walked slowly between the rows of his vegetable garden. He had worked hard all day, planting, watering, and pulling weeds. Now the moonlight touched the leaves, and the orange tomatoes glowed like small lamps in the dark. But something felt wrong. He heard the sound of rustling, soft but sharp, like hands moving through plants. The farmer's heart beat faster. Someone was in his garden, stealing. He gripped the handle of his old farming tool, his eyes searching the shadows. He moved closer, step by step, careful not to make a sound. The air was heavy. The smell of soil and green vines surrounded him. Then he saw a figure, small and thin, crouched between the plants. The figure was not alone. Two smaller shapes stood nearby. The farmer raised his tool, ready to shout, ready to chase. But then the moonlight revealed their faces. A young woman with pale skin and long silver hair looked up at him. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly like they carried the reflection of the stars. Her clothes were torn, her body marked with dirt and scars. In her trembling hands she held 2 ripe tomatoes. Behind her, 2 small children clutched more tomatoes to their chests. They looked fragile, their little arms thin, their faces hollow with hunger. Their hair was white like snow, their eyes too big for their small heads. The farmer froze, shocked. These were not ordinary thieves, not even ordinary people. The woman fell to her knees, the tomatoes slipping from her hands into the dirt. She pressed her forehead down to the ground, her voice breaking as she cried, "Please, human, do not hurt us. My children are dying of hunger." Her words were desperate, heavy with pain. She lifted her face, tears shining on her pale cheeks. "Take back the food, punish me if you must, but let my children eat," the farmer teared, his grip on the tools shaking. He had heard stories of strange beings after the Great War in the sky, rumors of survivors hiding on Earth, broken and weak, but he never believed he would meet one in his own garden. And now here they were, an alien widow and her children, starving. The children clung to their mother's torn clothes, their eyes fixed on the farmer. They made no sound, only held the tomatoes tighter as if the fruit was life itself. The farmer's anger cooled, replaced by something heavier. A deep unease, a question in his mind. Was he looking at enemies, or just a mother and children with empty stomachs? He stepped forward, and the woman flinched, covering her children with her arms. Her body shook, as if she expected a blow. The farmer lowered his tool slowly, his shadow falling over them. He whispered, almost to himself, "What am I supposed to do with you?" The silence stretched, broken only by the sound of the children's small breaths. The farmer's land was his pride, his food, his hard work. But he saw the bones under the children's skin. He saw the hollow eyes of the mother, her lips cracked from thirst. This was not greed, this was survival. The farmer bent down, picked up the tomatoes she had dropped. He placed them gently back into her hands. The woman gasped, staring at him as if she could not believe. You will not kill us," she whispered. The farmer did not answer, only looked at the sky for a moment. Stars burned above, cold and far away. He thought of his own loneliness, his quiet life with no family, and now before him, a family on the edge of death. He spoke at last, his voice low but firm. "If you are lying, if this is a trick, I will know." The woman shook her head, tears falling. No trick, only hunger, only fear. The children held out the tomatoes, as if ready to give them back, but the farmer pushed their hands gently. "Down. Keep them," he said, surprising even himself. The mother's lips trembled. She tried to speak, but no sound came. Her tears fell on the fruit she held like treasure. For a long time they stayed like that, under the moon, a human farmer, a desperate alien widow, and her 2 starving children. The night carried the sound of the wind through the leaves, but the farmer knew this was no ordinary night. It was the start of something bigger, something dangerous. He felt it in his bones. Helping them might cost him everything, but turning them away would make him less than human. And so the farmer stood in silence, his choice hanging heavy in the air. The children's eyes shone with a fragile hope. The mother clutched the tomatoes as if holding life itself. The farmer whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning." The morning sun rose slowly over the farmer's land. Golden light touched the fields, the garden, and the wooden house. But the farmer did not feel peace. All night his mind wrestled with the choice he made. He had allowed the alien woman and her children to leave with food. His heart was heavy, his thoughts restless. He sat on his porch, hands rough from years of work. The memory of their hollow faces would not leave him. The children's wide, shining eyes haunted him. He had seen hunger before, but never so sharp, never so desperate. He told himself it was foolishness, that helping them could bring danger. But another voice whispered, "You saw their pain. You saw their tears." When the day grew warmer, the farmer carried a basket of bread and water into the woods. He searched carefully, his boots pressing the soil. The trees grew thicker as he walked, shadows wrapping around him. At last he found them, huddled beneath an old broken shed on the edge of the forest. The woman sat with her arms around the children. Their pale heads leaned against her shoulders, their eyes half closed from exhaustion. When she saw the farmer, she froze. Her hands tightened around her children, as if she feared he had come to take them. But why you? And he set down the basket. She blinked in disbelief. Her lips trembled, words broken as they escaped her throat. You brought food. The farmer only nodded, pushing the basket toward them. The children rushed forward, their tiny fingers trembling as they grabbed the bread. They ate quickly, crumbs falling, water spilling down their chins. The mother held back tears, watching them swallow every bite. Her hands shook as she whispered, "You gave us mercy when no one else would." The farmer stayed silent, his eyes scanning the trees. He did not want to admit it, but fear followed him here. If anyone saw him with them, if anyone reported them, the hunters would come. And yet, he stayed. Something about their fragile state chained him to them. Perhaps it was the way the children looked at him, as if he was more than a stranger. Perhaps it was the way the mother bowed her head, her pride swallowed by the need to keep her little ones alive. When the children finished eating, the mother spoke again, her voice low. "I was not always like this," she said. "Once I lived among my people in the stars. Once I had a husband, strong and brave. But war came, fire came, and we fell. Our ship was destroyed. My husband died protecting us, and I ran with my children. We hid, we wandered, and we found this world. But this world does not welcome us. It hunts us." The farmer listened, his jaw tight. He had heard whispers of the war in the sky, of battles where alien ships burned like falling stars. Many humans had cheered when the ships were destroyed, but now, seeing the broken survivors, it did not feel like victory. It felt like cruelty. The children climbed onto their mother's lap, pressing close to her. The farmer noticed their small arms, marked with bruises and cuts. They had not only been hungry, they had suffered much worse. His chest ached, though he tried to hide it. "You cannot stay here," he said finally. "People are watching. People are suspicious. If they discover you, they will not show mercy." The mother bowed her head. "I know," she whispered. "But where can we go, human? The forests are wide, but danger follows everywhere. We have no home, no safety." The farmer's hand tightened on the handle of his basket. He thought of his lonely nights, his quiet meals alone. He thought of how he worked the soil with no one waiting inside the house. And here, before him, stood a family with nothing but need. Something deep inside him cracked. Perhaps he was foolish, perhaps he was mad, but he could not walk away. He looked at the mother, his voice hard. "You will come back to the farm, but you must hide. No one can see you. No one can know. If anyone finds out, it will mean death for you and for me." The mother's eyes widened, shock filling her pale face. "You would take us in?" she asked, her voice shaking. The farmer gave a short nod. "Not out of kindness," he said roughly. "Out of duty. No children should starve in front of my eyes." The mother bowed deeply, her tears falling onto the ground. Her children clung to her arms, not fully understanding, but they sensed hope, fragile and small, like a candle flame in the dark. The farmer turned and walked back toward the farm. Behind him, the alien family followed, their steps slow, their breaths unsteady. The sun was sinking lower, painting the sky with red, and with every step, the farmer knew the risk was growing. In the village, rumors already spread. Neighbors spoke of missing crops, of strange tracks in the soil. Some whispered of shadows moving in the night. Hunters had been seen passing through, asking questions. The farmer's stomach tightened with dread. By taking them in, he had crossed a line, and there would be no turning back. As they reached the edge of his land, the children's eyes widened at the sight of the house. To them it was not a simple wooden building. It was a fortress, a shelter, a miracle. The mother whispered softly, almost like a prayer. "Perhaps the stars have not abandoned us after all." But the farmer did not answer. He only looked at the horizon, where storm clouds gathered. Danger was coming, closer each day, and mercy had now tied their fates together. The farm looked peaceful under the afternoon sun. Rows of green plants swayed gently in the breeze. The wooden house stood strong and silent, but inside the farmer's heart, there was no peace. He had taken in the alien mother and her children. He had given them food. He had given them shelter. Yet every moment, fear walked beside him. The alien family stayed hidden in the barn during the day. The children whispered softly, playing with small pieces of wood and stone. Their laughter was faint, as if they were afraid of being too loud. The mother helped with small chores, washing, cleaning, and sewing torn cloth. She moved quietly, her eyes always watching the windows. She knew danger was close. She could feel it in the air, and she was right. The village was not far, and in the village, questions had begun to grow. One man swore he saw strange lights in the woods. Another claimed he heard voices when no one was there. And then, a neighbor of the farmer noticed the missing vegetables. Suspicion turned into whispers. Whispers turned into rumors. Soon, hunters arrived. Men dressed in dark uniforms with cold eyes. They went from door to door, asking questions. "Have you seen anything unusual? Any strangers? Any strange creatures?" they asked. The villagers shook their heads, but fear spread like fire through dry grass. The farmer kept calm when the hunters came to his farm. He leaned on his shovel, his voice steady. "No strangers here, only me and my land," he said. The hunters looked at him with narrow eyes. They searched the fields, they searched the edges of the woods, but they did not search the barn, not yet. The farmer's hand gripped the shovel tighter, his palms sweaty. If they opened the barn, everything would be over. Inside the barn, the alien mother held her children close. She pressed her finger to her lips, her heart pounding. The children did not move, their glowing eyes wide with fear. Every sound of boots outside made them tremble. The mother whispered silently, praying to stars that no longer answered. At last, the hunters left, but not without warning. One turned to the farmer and said, "If you see anything strange, you tell us. Do not think you can hide them, we will know." Their words were heavy, sharp as knives. The farmer nodded, his face calm, but inside, rage burned. He hated their cold eyes, he hated their cruel smiles, and yet he knew one mistake, one slip, and the family would be gone. That night, the mother spoke softly to the farmer. "You should not risk yourself for us," she said. "The hunters will not stop, they will return again and again. If they find us here, they will punish you as well." The farmer looked at her, his voice low and firm. "I made my choice, and I will not turn back." The children listened, their small bodies curled up in old blankets. They trusted the farmer now. They looked at him as if he were more than a man, as if he were a shield between them and the cruel world. The farmer felt that weight, and he carried it without complaint. Days passed, and the tension grew heavier. The hunters returned to the village, searching, questioning. Tracks were found near the river, strange footprints too small to be human. The farmer knew whose prints they were. The children had wandered too far one morning chasing butterflies. He scolded them gently, but fear struck deep in his chest. The hunters would not ignore such signs. Meanwhile, the spying neighbor grew suspicious. He had seen the farmer walking toward the barn too often. He had seen shadows moving where no one should be. At night, he whispered to others, "I think the farmer is hiding something dangerous." The words spread, and soon the hunters heard. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, the farmer saw movement near the woods, figures creeping, watching, waiting. He knew they were not animals. The hunters had returned, silent as wolves. They searched the edges of his land, their flashlights cutting through the dark. Inside the barn, the alien mother pressed her children down into the straw. "Hide, stay silent, no matter what happens," she whispered. Her hands shook, but her eyes were fierce. She had lived through war, through fire, through loss. She would not let her children be taken without a fight. The farmer stepped outside, his shovel in hand. He stood tall, facing the hunters as they approached. His voice was calm, though his heart pounded. "Looking for something?" he asked. The hunters exchanged glances, their leader stepping forward. "Yes, footprints, small ones, not human. They lead here." The farmer's jaw tightened, but he did not move. "This is my land. Only my boots touch this soil," he said. The hunters did not believe him, their eyes narrowing. They spread out, moving closer to the barn. The farmer's breath caught in his chest. He knew if they opened that door, it would all end. The alien mother knew it too. Her children clung to her arms, trembling. The moment stretched, sharp and heavy like the edge of a blade, and then a sound broke the silence. A cry, high and small, the voice of a child. One of the alien children, unable to stay silent any longer. The hunters froze, their heads snapping toward the barn. The farmer's blood turned to ice. The secret was no longer safe. The hunters moved quickly, their boots striking the ground. The farmer stepped forward, his shovel raised. He would not let them pass easily, not without a fight. The night grew darker, the air grew colder, and the hunt had truly begun. The night was heavy with silence. The hunters stood outside the barn, their hands close to their weapons. The farmer's grip tightened on his shovel, sweat running down his back. He knew the sound had given them away. The cry of the alien child echoed in his ears like thunder. One mistake, and now everything was at risk. "Open the barn," the leader of the hunters ordered, his voice sharp. The farmer forced a calm expression, though his heart pounded. "No need to open it. Only tools and hay inside," he said. The hunter stepped closer, his boots crunching against the dirt. "We will see for ourselves," the man replied coldly. He reached out toward the latch, his hand slow but steady. Inside the barn, the alien mother pressed her children deeper into the straw. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, sharp with fear. She whispered, "Stay still, stay quiet, no matter what happens." The children buried their faces against her, fighting the urge to cry again. The mother's body trembled, not from weakness, but from the memory of war. She had lost everything once before. She would not lose her children now. The latch rattled, the barn door began to move. But then, a shout came from the woods. "Tracks! We found tracks!" another hunter called. The leader froze, glancing toward the trees. He pulled back his hand, his suspicions still strong. "We will search there first," he ordered. The hunters moved away, their flashlights cutting into the darkness. The farmer released the breath he had been holding. His arms shook as he lowered his shovel. The danger had passed, but only for a moment. Later, in the dim barn light, the alien mother looked at the heavy armor. "You cannot protect us forever," she whispered. "They will return. They will not stop until we are gone." The farmer sat heavily on a wooden stool, his face hard. "I know," he admitted, "but I will not hand you over." The days that followed were filled with tension. The family stayed hidden, their movements quiet as shadows. The farmer worked his fields as if nothing had changed, but he always watched the road, always listened for boots in the distance. His neighbor, however, was watching too. The man had seen the hunters at the farm. He had seen the way the farmer guarded his barn. Suspicion grew in his heart, sharp and poisonous. At the village tavern, the neighbors spoke in whispers. "The farmer hides something, I am sure of it," he said. "He grows more secret every day. He drives people away from his land." The villagers exchanged uneasy looks. Rumors spread faster than fire. Soon, even the hunters heard the talk. They returned once more to question the neighbor, and this time, the man did not hold back. "I have seen shadows in his barn. I have heard strange noises," he said. The hunters listened with eager eyes, and they made their plan. Meanwhile, in the barn, the alien mother spoke to her children, her voice soft, her hands stroking their pale hair. "We may need to leave soon," she said. "This place has given us life, but danger is closing in." The children shook their heads, tears filling their eyes. They clung to the farmer's coat when he entered. They did not want to lose the only safety they had known. The farmer felt their small hands and his chest tightened. He had lived alone for years. Now these children looked at him with trust. The alien mother watched him too, her eyes filled with something unspoken. Not love, not yet, but gratitude mixed with fear. A bond was forming, one stronger than he expected. But bonds were dangerous. They gave him strength, but also weakness. He could not imagine what he would do if they were taken, and the hunters were closer than ever. One evening, as the sun sank red behind the fields, the farmer saw movement near the edge of his land. It was his neighbor, slipping through the trees. The farmer's stomach turned to stone. The man was not just curious, he was spying. The farmer knew what this meant. The neighbor had already betrayed him. That night, the mother stood by the barn door. She looked at the stars above, her voice quiet. "Your people will turn against you, human," she said. "They will not forgive you for helping us." The farmer stood beside her, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "I am ready for that," he replied. "But are you ready, if it comes to blood?" Her silence was the only answer. Her eyes burned with memories of battles lost. She had sworn to live in peace for her children, but peace was slipping away. The sound of boots would soon return. The hunters would come, guided by the neighbor's betrayal, and when they came, there would be no more hiding. The farmer tightened his grip on his shovel. The mother closed her arms around her children. The night air grew cold, the stars sharp against the sky. Both of them knew trust had brought them together, but betrayal would bring war to the farm. The night was restless. The farmer stood at his window, staring into the dark fields. The barn loomed like a silent shadow, hiding the alien mother and her children. He could not sleep, not when danger pressed so close. He knew the hunters would return, led by the whispering tongue of his neighbor. And when they came, they would not leave without blood. The air was heavy, filled with the smell of rain and earth. Thunder rolled far in the distance. The farmer gripped his shovel, his old hands steady though his heart pounded. He had lived a simple life, a quiet life. But tonight, his land would become a battlefield. In the barn, the alien mother held her children close. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim lantern light. The little ones clung to her arms, sensing the storm that was coming. She whispered softly, "Stay strong. No matter what happens, stay silent. Stay together." Her voice trembled, but her gaze was sharp with fire. She had been a warrior once, before she chose peace. Now the warrior in her stirred again, awakened by fear for her children. The first sign of danger came with the crunch of boots on wet soil. The farmer stepped outside, rain dripping from his hat. Shapes moved in the dark, flashlights cutting through the fields. The hunters had come, more than before, their weapons ready. The neighbor walked among them, his face smug. The sight of him filled the farmer with quiet fury. Betrayal burned deeper than the storm. "Farmer," the hunter leader called out, "this ends tonight. Hand over the creatures you hide, and you may live." The farmer's jaw tightened, his voice low and steady. "There are no creatures here, only me and my land." The leader smirked, lifting a hand. "Search the barn," he ordered. The hunters advanced, their boots sinking into the wet ground. The farmer stepped forward, blocking their path. He raised his shovel like a weapon, rain running down the iron blade. "You will not take one step closer," he warned. The hunters laughed, but their laughter was cut short. The barn doors burst open. The alien mother stepped out, her eyes glowing brighter than the lightning above. Her children huddled behind her, their faces pale with fear. "Stay back," she shouted, her voice echoing across the farm. The hunters froze for a moment, shocked at her sudden appearance. Then their weapons rose, aimed at her chest. The farmer moved quickly, standing in front of her. "If you want out, you go through me," he said. The rain poured harder, thunder splitting the sky. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. A shot rang out. The bullet struck the wooden post near the farmer's head. Splinters flew, the children screamed. The mother's hands lifted, light flaring from her skin. For a brief second, the storm itself seemed to bend around her. The hunters stumbled back, their flashlights flickering. She had power, old and dangerous, power she had sworn never to use. But tonight, she had no choice. The farmer swung his shovel, striking one hunter to the ground. Another rushed at him, fists raised. The farmer fought like a man defending not only land, but family. His strength was born of desperation. The barn became a fortress, the storm their shield, but the hunters were many, and their weapons were deadly. One child slipped in the chaos, his small form darting through the rain. A hunter grabbed him, lifting him roughly into his arms. The mother screamed, her voice shattering the night. "Give him back," she cried. She surged forward, light blazing from her hands, but another hunter struck her with the butt of his weapon. She fell to her knees, blood on her lips. The farmer's rage exploded. He tackled the man, fists pounding, refusing to let him rise. Through the chaos, the leader barked orders. "Take the child, retreat now!" The hunters pulled back, dragging the screaming boy with them. The mother's voice tore through the storm, raw with despair. "No, my child!" Her body shook, her hands clawing at the ground. The farmer stumbled to her side, gripping her shoulder. But his strength could not stop the hunters from fleeing into the night. The rain poured harder, washing blood and mud into the soil. The mother collapsed against the farmer, her sobs breaking through the thunder. Her other child clung to her side, crying for his brother. The farmer's heart felt like stone. He had fought, he had bled, and still one of them had been taken. The hunters disappeared into the dark woe. Odds, the stolen child's cries fading. The neighbor followed them, his face pale now. He had not expected such violence, but it was too late for regret. The farm lay broken, the barn damaged, the ground scarred by the fight. But the worst wound was the empty place where the child had been. The alien mother lifted her face, her glowing eyes filled with fire and grief. "They will hurt him. They will use him," she whispered. Her words trembled with rage. The farmer looked at her, his jaw set, his voice firm. "Then we will take him back." The mother met his gaze, her pain turning into steel. The storm raged around them, lightning striking the hills. Their war had only just begun. The storm had passed, leaving the farm in ruins. Mud clung to the ground, broken tools lay scattered, and the barn door hung crooked. But the true wound was not the damage to wood or soil. It was the empty space where the alien child should have been. The mother sat on the ground, her arms wrapped around her remaining son. Her eyes glowed dimly, red from tears and exhaustion. She rocked back and forth, whispering his brother's name. The farmer stood nearby, silent, his hands tight around the handle of his shovel. Every cry of the mother cut into him like a blade. He had promised himself to protect them, yet he had failed. "We must go after him," the mother said at last, her voice low and broken. "They will hurt him. They will tear him apart for their machines." Her words trembled, but behind them burned a sharp fire. The farmer nodded, his jaw firm. Yes, we will, but we need to be clever, not reckless. The mother's glowing eyes lifted to him, fierce and desperate. Then plan it, human, because I will not leave my child to die. The farmer began at dawn. He knew the hunters would carry the child to a military facility beyond the forests, a place built from stone and iron hidden by high fence. He had seen soldiers move that way before, trucks carrying prisoners no one spoke of. If the child was taken there, he would not last long. The farmer sharpened his tools, not for farming, but for war. The mother watched, her hands trembling, when she saw the metal glint of his axe, her lips pressed into a thin line. You fight with Earth's tools, she whispered. On my world, we had weapons of light, of fire, but all are lost now. Her voice fell softer, almost to herself. And yet, even with weapons of light, I still lost everything. The farmer looked at her, his face shadowed. You have not lost everything, not yet, he said. You still have one child beside you, and one waiting for us to bring him home. Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time she did not look away. Instead, she stood and touched the rough handle of the shovel. If this is your weapon, then it is mine too, she said. The farmer gave a small nod, a silent pact sealed between them. As the day faded, they set out together. The mother carried her son on her back until he grew tired. The farmer guided the way through the woods, moving like a shadow. Every broken branch, every strange sound made them pause. The hunters might be tracking them, the neighbor might be watching still, but fear no longer ruled their steps, only determination. At night, they made camp by the river. The boy slept between them, his small chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. The farmer sat awake, staring at the water. The mother joined him, her face pale in the moonlight. You risk your life for us, human. Why? She asked. The farmer did not answer at once. He thought of his empty house, his long years of silence. He thought of how the children's laughter had filled that silence, and at last he said, Because someone must, and I will not stand by while innocents are destroyed. The mother lowered her gaze, her hands clasped tightly. In my world, few men like you remain, she whispered. Perhaps that is why we fell. By the third day they reach. At the hills, from the top they saw it, the facility, a gray fortress rising from the earth, surrounded by tall fences and steel gates. Guards marched along the walls, their rifles gleaming under the sun. Smoke rose from chimneys, and trucks rumbled in and out. It was a place of shadows and secrets, and somewhere inside, the child waited. The mother's breath caught in her throat. She clutched her son close, her glowing eyes filled with pain. The farmer placed a hand on her shoulder. We will get him out, he said. But even he knew the risk. This was no small fight. This was war against a fortress. At nightfall, they crept closer, hiding among rocks and broken trees. The farmer studied the guards, counting their steps, their patterns. He saw where the fences bent, where shadows lingered. The mother's eyes glowed faintly, helping her see in the dark. Together they mapped a path, dangerous but possible. The boy lay hidden beneath a blanket of leaves, his small hands clutching a stone like it was a weapon. He whispered, Bring him back, before falling asleep. As the moon rose high, the farmer and the mother prepared. The farmer tightened his grip on his shovel. The mother raised her trembling hands, faint sparks of light flickering at her fingertips. She had sworn not to use her power, but tonight she would break that vow, because tonight her child's life was worth more than her oath. The wind howled against the fences. The guards marched with tired eyes, unaware of the danger creeping closer. The farmer and the mother crouched in the dark, hearts pounding as one. Ahead of them lay steel, guns, and men with orders to kill. But behind them lay hope, and hope was stronger than fear. The mother whispered, her voice sharp with promise. We go in together. We leave together, no matter what. The farmer gave one firm nod. The night stretched long. The shadows grew deep. And their desperate rescue was about to begin. The night air was cold and sharp. The farmer and the alien mother crouched in the shadows near the fortress fence. Behind them, the boy slept under branches, hidden from sight. Ahead of them, lights burned across the steel walls, and guards paced with rifles in hand. Inside, the stolen child waited, trapped in human hands. The farmer studied the fence, his eyes narrowing. He had counted the guards, learned their patterns. Every few minutes, a blind spot opened, brief but real. He tapped the mother's arm, pointing toward the weak place in the fence. She nodded, her glowing eyes steady despite the fear inside her. Together, they moved like shadows. The farmer pressed wire cutters against the steel, the sound barely a whisper. Piece by piece, the gap opened, wide enough for them to crawl through. The mother slipped in first, her breath fast, her body tense. The farmer followed, shovel strapped across his back. Once inside, the ground smelled of oil and smoke, the air heavy with iron. They crept along the edge of a storage building. From inside, voices carried, guards laughing, glasses clinking. But the farmer ignored them, his eyes fixed on the tall gray structure beyond. The laboratory, cold and silent, its windows dark. He knew that was where the child would be. The mother touched his arm, her voice a whisper. "I can feel him," she said. Her eyes flickered with faint light, her connection to her child guiding her. The farmer gave a single nod. "Then we go there." They moved quickly, darting between shadows. When a guard appeared suddenly around the corner, the farmer struck. His shovel came down hard, knocking the man silent before he could raise an alarm. The mother stared, her face pale. She had seen violence before, but seeing it for her sake struck deep. The farmer only whispered, "No choice," and kept moving. At last, they reached the laboratory door. It was locked, thick metal holding it shut. The farmer searched for a way in, but the mother raised her hands, sparks of light dancing between her fingers. She closed her eyes, focused. The lock glowed, twisted, and broke apart with a snap. The door creaked open, and cold air spilled out. Inside, the halls were silent, lined with steel and glass. Machines hummed, wires crawled across the floor like roots. They moved carefully, every step a risk. Then they heard it, a soft cry, a voice too small for the vast room. The mother gasped, rushing forward, behind a glass wall. Her son sat in a cage, thin and frightened. Wires ran from the walls to the cage, sparks flickering. The boy's eyes widened when he saw her. "Mother," he whispered, his voice breaking. The farmer swung his shovel against the glass. It cracked but did not break. Again, harder, until the barrier shattered, shards raining to the ground. The mother pulled her son into her arms, holding him tight. Tears streamed down her face. "You are safe now, safe with me," she whispered again and again. But safety was only a dream. Alarms blared suddenly, red lights flashing. Guards stormed the hall, rifles raised, voices shouting. The farmer stood in front of the family, shovel in hand. The mother set her child behind her, her eyes blazing with light. The guards fired, bullets tearing through the air. The farmer swung, knocking one soldier down. The mother raised her hands, a wave of blinding light bursting from her body. The bullets slowed, bent, and struck the walls instead. The guards stumbled back, shielding their eyes. The farmer and the mother fought side by side, shovel and light, strength and fire. Together they pushed through the wave of soldiers, but more kept coming, their numbers endless. At last they burst through the doors, dragging both children close. Outside, the night air hit them, fresh and cold, but the chase was not over. The fortress roared with alarms. The guards poured out behind them. The farmer ran with the children, the mother covering their escape. Her hands glowed, bolts of light striking the ground, slowing the soldiers. Her body shook with the strain, but she did not stop. She would not stop, not while her children breathed. They reached the fence, crawling through the gap they had made. The boy stumbled, but the farmer lifted him, carrying him across. The mother followed, her strength fading. Once outside, the forest welcomed them, shadows hiding their flight. They did not stop until the fortress was far behind, until only silence filled the night. At last they collapsed near the river. The mother clutched both children, her too, ears falling into their pale hair. The farmer stood nearby, breath ragged, his body aching. He looked at them, safe together at last, and for the first time in years, his heart felt full. The mother raised her eyes to him, her voice soft but strong. "You gave us more than food, more than shelter. You gave us hope." The farmer shook his head slowly. "No, you gave me hope," he said, his voice low. "For too long, I lived empty, but you showed me I was still human." The stars burned bright above, silent witnesses to their escape. The mother held her children close, whispering thanks to the sky. The farmer sat beside them, staring into the night. He knew danger was not gone. The hunters would return, more would come, searching, hunting, destroying. But he also knew one truth. Humanity's true test had only just begun, and perhaps, just perhaps, he was ready for it.